Dion Fortune, Through the Gates of Death. Chapter 5. The Appointed Time. We do not wish to have towards death the fatalistic attitude of the Mohammedan, however much we may admire his courage, nor yet the panic-stricken clinging to life of many so-called Christians. Whoever has any knowledge of astrology knows that the time when death is likely to occur can't be predicted with considerable accuracy. But if he has had any practical experience of the same art, he also knows that which is threatened does not necessarily befall. There are a great many factors to be taken into consideration in a horoscope, and the judgment is, after all, not the answer to a sum in arithmetic, concerning which there can only be one result, but the opinion of the astrologer concerning the ultimate outcome of an indefinite number of counterbalancing factors. Astrology is much more of an art than a science, and the personal factor in both querent and astrologer is a very large one. No one can deny, however, that there are tides of death in every horoscope, tides on which the soul may readily slip across the harbor bar into the great beyond. The cords are loosened then, and if a sudden stress comes, they may part. On the other hand, a compensating force may come into play. The faith or the willpower of the querent himself, or of one close to him, may suffice to hold the soul in the body until the tide has run its course, and the knot of life tightens again automatically. In such a case, we may literally say that a new lease of life has been entered upon, and that there is little likelihood of death until the planets once again have moved into a fatal position. It is very instructive to retrogress a horoscope, if such a term may be permitted, and observe how the planets stood during periods of crisis in the past. We shall find that there may have been more than one period when the angel of death drew near but passed by. What has happened once again may happen again, and it is unwise to assume the certainty of death before the breath is out of the body, as it is to count chickens before they are hatched. One thing is certain. If life be trembling in the balance, the knowledge that an astrologer has passed sentence of death will be very powerful depressant and may serve to turn the balance. In my opinion, however clearly death may appear to be written in a horoscope, no astrologer should ever reveal the fact, but should content himself with saying that the period will be a critical one for the health of the querent. This will be sufficient to give warning without inducing a paralyzing autosuggestion. We may assume, then, that there are periods when the soul is liable to go out, but is not necessarily bound to go out. These periods must necessarily be times of anxiety, but we need not adopt a fatalistic attitude towards them and lie down and die without a struggle because our planets are adverse. Mars may have something to say to Saturn, and it may say it effectively. It cannot be other than a misfortune if death comes before the age of 60 years and 10, because in each incarnation a long period of preparation has to be undergone before maturity of the faculties is reached, and we begin to reap what we have sown. To have to undergo another period of infancy, childhood, and youth before full return has been obtained from the investment of life values in the present period is a misfortune, though not necessarily a tragedy if seen against the wide landscape of evolving life. We should there reinforce by every means in our power the battle against a premature death. But after our allotted span, unless we have work to finish, we are wise to take our quittance when it comes, going tranquilly out with the tide, secure that our life is hid with Christ in God. It is better to go and take a new body than cling to the one that is fast becoming inhabitable. If we have passed the allotted span, we may well say, Lord, now suffer thou thy servant to depart in peace. By this I do not mean it to be understood that we should refuse ordinary precautions and remedial measures. It is our duty to fulfill the laws of nature as long as we are under the jurisdiction of those laws. It is the attitude of mind to which I refer. We may fight death grimly to the last ditch, holding body and soul together with all the power of a concentrated will. Or we may turn our thoughts to the heaven world and begin to reach out towards it. Before 70 and 10 it is our duty to fight death with spiritual resources as well as material. But after that time, unless there is some definite reason to the contrary, such as obligations unfulfilled or work unfinished, we do best to place ourselves in God's hands, for he will not recall his servant until his work is done and the time of rest is due. We must never forget that spiritual law and karma are not the same thing. It is karma that causes the premature death of the body, but it is the spiritual law that withdraws the soul from incarnation when the time is right. Spiritual forces can be used to counteract an evil karma, but there is nothing that either could or should be used to counteract spiritual law. Our greatest good lies in fulfilling it. We must get out of the way of thinking that death is the ultimate tragedy. There are conditions under which it may be a misfortune for all concerned, both for the passing soul and those around him. But on the other hand, it may be the next stage in life. It is only the man sunk in matter who calls the angel of death the great enemy. His esoteric name is the opener of the gates of life.